Those who are joining, we'll be getting started in about 3 to 5 minutes to let others come on in. I'd just like to remind each of our panelists, if you can place your setting on mute until it's time to speak. Thank you. All right, we have one more minute or so. People are still joining. We'll give them a few more minutes to join and we'll go ahead and get started. All right, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. All that starts on time, ends on time. So good afternoon, everyone, and happy New Year to each of you. We're excited to share we had over 270 registrants for this summit from various disciplines, organizations, and all across the United States. So we know that as the show goes on, folks are going to trickle in, and we're very excited. To those of you who are already with us today, we want to give you a warm welcome for joining us for our 11th virtual Global Summit. My name is Dr. Dana Hunter, and I'm the Executive Director of the National Coalition for the Prevention of Human Sex Trafficking, or NCPHST, as we call it, and Louisiana First Foundation. And I am pleased to serve as your MC for today's program. Today, we have a star-studded lineup of national and state-level experts who will provide insight on what human trafficking prevention looks like before and during large-scale sporting events. What are some pointers to recognize and report? What sorts of boots-on-the-ground activities are happening or have happened in the past to raise awareness in advance of these large-scale sporting events? We'll discuss this today. We are very thankful in advance to each of our speakers for taking time out of their busy schedules to provide their expertise with us today. We have a jammed-packed agenda. So as we prepare to get started, we have just a few housekeeping items to discuss with you. First, please take a moment and tell us who you are. Introduce yourselves in the chat room. Tell us your name, agency, and state that you're representing. As I mentioned before, the agenda's jam-packed. We may not have room towards the end for questions. However, we want to hear from each of you. So we ask that as the speakers are presenting, if a question comes up, feel free to drop that question in the chat and include your email address. After the event, within a few days, we'll email these questions to the appropriate speaker and copy you on the email. Lastly, towards the end or before if you need to hop off, we ask that you let us know right in the chat how you enjoyed the presenters, and you can comment throughout. And if there are topics that you would like for us to feature in one of our summits later this year, feel free to let us know before exiting the summit. Without further ado, I'd like to invite someone very near and dear to our hearts to do the opening invocation, someone who's made a significant impact in addressing human trafficking at the international, national, and state level. In a few minutes, you will hear from Father Chuck Swanson. After Father Chuck, you will hear from none other than the president and founder of NCPHST and Louisiana First Foundation, Mrs. Donna Edwards, former First Lady of Louisiana. Now I'll turn it over to Father Chuck to give us an opening invocation. Father Chuck.
Thank you, Donna, or Dana. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you with hearts burdened by the suffering caused by human trafficking. We lift up to you every victim, those who are trapped in darkness, stripped of human dignity, and yearning for freedom. Lord, protect them. Grant strength to those working tirelessly to rescue and to restore their lives. Give us the wisdom, courage, and compassion to do this work. Awaken our hearts, Lord, to see injustice and to respond with boldness. Equip us to be advocates for change, instruments of peace in our broken world. Heavenly Father, in your mercy and justice, may your kingdom come. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Father Chuck, for that wonderful prayer. Ms. Donna?
Thank you, Father Chuck. Happy New Year, everyone. It always feels good to be with you all and have conversations around this very important topic of human trafficking awareness. On December the 30th, 2024, President Biden signed a proclamation declaring January 2025 as National Human Trafficking Prevention Month. As organizations and leaders, including survivors across the US and beyond, are dedicating time to hosting activities to educate the public on what this crime looks like. You know, sadly, there's still a need to talk about this and continue to do so. And every day, as you well know, young children, boys and girls, women and men are still becoming victims of this crime. Survivors have shared stories with us, and what they have told us is that while their victimization happens year-round, pimps capitalize on the increased during large-scale events, looking for what they call a good time. Buying humans for sex or exploiting them in labor services for their own profit. This is not okay. In fact, it is disgusting and horrific. I'm thankful that we will address this topic today and for the experts who are here to shed light on why this is important information we all need to be aware of. I'm also thankful for each of you joining as participants. Some of you, experts, others still learning and wondering how you too can be helpful in ending this horrible crime. So thank you for being here on this Zoom, for your dedication to serving children and families in various ways to decrease their vulnerability to crimes such as human trafficking. And I want you all to know that I remain dedicated to this cause through my National Coalition and Louisiana First Foundation. I also have several first spouses who stand with me, dedicated to addressing this issue. I'm happy to introduce someone who has made an impact on my life. You know, during my time as First Lady, I met Susan Hutchinson, former First Lady of Arkansas, and learned about the great work she was doing with child advocacy centers and still doing. She is an NCPHST advisory member, a friend, and dedicated to this cause. So join me in welcoming Susan Hutchinson, former First Lady of Arkansas. Susan?
Hi, it's great to meet with all of y'all and keep this movement forward. One of the huge challenges of course, is to make people aware of it. We know bad things happen, but it stays under the radar, but it still affects so many people, innocent people. There's all kinds of ways they can get sucked into it, tricked into it, seduced into it, just all kinds of ways. For that, I'm very thankful for our Attorney General, Tim Griffin, here in Arkansas, and his efforts have been successful. And he's organized law enforcement folks to come together under his counsel, and they made a great breakthrough in Northeast Arkansas in the last few months in the Jonesboro area. You may have heard of Arkansas State University. That's the hometown there in Jonesboro, and they rescued some 30 women out of the clutches of their owner. 5 of the ladies did accept help in the way of drug counseling, lodging, food, medical, and such. And so this inspires me to get more involved and see that all can be afforded the help and choose the help that they so desperately need in order to recover and go back into a real life, and a functioning and contributing life, a healthy life. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson, for sharing that story and for your continued leadership on this issue. That's why this is so important. When we hear about survivors being rescued, it makes all the difference. So thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. We're going to jump right in. Our first speaker is no stranger to many of you here. He's a leader in the law enforcement anti-trafficking field, Detective Joe Scaramucci, Director of Law Enforcement Engagement with Skull Games. Joe, I'll turn it right over to you.
I got thrown right into the fire there. I am sharing screen. Are you guys able to see that? I can't see if it's sharing or not.
You can start the slideshow or expand it.
I'm sorry, I am absolutely not techie at all. Is that showing?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay. So you are seeing my screen?
Yep, we can.
Yes.
Perfect. I'm not seeing it for some reason. So we'll talk a little bit about just the law enforcement response to different large scale events, to the Super Bowls, especially with everything coming up in New Orleans and everything that's already underway. With the good comes bad and ugly, and as anybody who knows me knows that I like addressing all of it. So we'll definitely talk over that for the next few minutes. A little bit about me. I've spent 20 years in law enforcement, retired last year. Came to work for an organization called Skull Games. I'll get into what we do and who we are here in a little bit. But I've had the fortune of working human trafficking for about the last decade. Prior to that, I did death investigations, crimes against children, major crime, and was a task force officer with Homeland Security investigations as well for about a little over 8 years. I've worked both sex and labor trafficking, child sex trafficking, adult sex trafficking, and in addition to those, I've had the fortune of working internationally, really just around the world on trafficking cases and operations. So I say all that to say that there's really nothing unique, no matter where you are in the United States. Investigative methodologies really will stay the same. If you're in Los Angeles or you're in New York or you're in New Orleans, the actual methodologies don't really change at all. So all that's to say, what I'm talking about has really been proven time and time again, both domestic and internationally as well. I have had the fortune of working Super Bowls, large scale events, including all-star games, different collegiate and professional sports as well. A little bit about me real quickly. I am from Texas. So for those that can see the sign, we are in the middle of God's kingdom. Most important thing on this slide, I'm not going to lie, is actually going to be the street tacos. Anybody who comes here, first thing they want is a steak. We don't do that. We do tacos. But I will admit, with all my travels to Louisiana, the very close second becomes the crawfish. And the third becomes the Bloody Mary. I will move on and digress off of that. I do come from an agency where we held multiple roles. So in addition to my trafficking, I was pretty blessed to do a little over 12, 13 years in SWAT, about 12 in aviation as well. And anybody that knows me knows that I will take every second I can to brag on my English bulldog and not my child. So Super Bowl. You know, we talk a lot about this. Obviously, with the Super Bowl coming up in New Orleans, it's a hot button topic, particularly for Louisiana. There's a lot that we have to kind of stop and pause and think through whenever we're looking at the Super Bowl. Is there an increase in trafficking? You know, there are people that'll tell you one way, people that'll tell you another. That's here nor there. For one, it's a perfect time to get the message out, right? That's people, all eyes are on what's going on. So it's a perfect time for that. The question we really have from a law enforcement perspective is, what is the message we are relaying? What is the message that we're sharing? As the former First Lady said, you know, about the op that recently, I guess in Northeast Arkansas, 30 women recovered, 5 received services, right? Or 5 take services. They have a phenomenal state police agency there that is doing just amazing work. And for them to be doing such a good job and have 5, that's pretty telling about the demographic and what we're dealing with when it comes to our victims. A lot of that comes from what are we as law enforcement doing to not only assist them, but perpetuate vulnerability and victimization. And it does happen quite a bit. So I just used some of these mugshots, some of these different press releases as a pointer to really create some discussion. When we look at, as an example, the Super Bowl in Tampa, there were 75 arrests related to human trafficking out there at that one. Overall, during that same time period, there were nationally about 750 arrests. Those tend to come from the National John Suppression Initiative, which is out of Cook County, Chicago. It's a phenomenal initiative targeting primarily sex buyers as it pertains to human trafficking. The message that we're oftentimes sending, though, is when we stop and we look at the details and we stop and we look at the mug shots. And that is what is being pushed to our public. And we have to look at operational takeaways from this, right? Of the last 5 Super Bowls, this is all publicly available data. You can go find this. There's no secret sauce to it. We can push back to the Super Bowl in Miami. 1.6% of all arrests were actually traffickers, right? That's a very, very, very small number. To be able to say that we are targeting traffickers and 1.6% of those, to me, is the equivalent of arresting somebody for a joint and saying that we did a Sinaloa cartel operation. We can't do that. 4.3% of those are buyers, and this is specific to Miami. So we have to ask who makes up the remainder of those arrests. And the reality is it's potential victims of trafficking. When we look at Tampa, about 4% of the arrests were traffickers. They did have about 37% buyers, which is a much higher number, obviously. Shifting over to California, and these are going Super Bowl to Super Bowl leading up to what's going on in New Orleans. In Los Angeles, it was about 6% of the arrests were traffickers. There's some issue there because it does conflate those that were seeking to buy children. So it's probably a little bit lower, but it's an overall number that's a little more solid. About 42% of those arrests were buyers out there. And then in Phoenix, they actually jumped to about 18% of their arrests were sex traffickers, with about 33% of those were buyers. And then last year in Vegas, it was about 3% of the arrests were traffickers, 5.2% were buyers. The issue that we have with all of this is, what is the overarching number of arrests? Those are women engaged in commercial sex. Those are women engaged in the legal act of prostitution. The problem we have with this is, we know from the numbers, we know from the statistics, a very large number of them are being trafficked. Who are we criminalizing? Those really are going to be our victims. There are a bunch of releases out there. There are a bunch of news articles. There's a bunch of pressers coming straight from law enforcement. So don't let me confuse this with being conflated with social media. Where we talk about rescue, right? And I don't like the term, because I don't think in law enforcement by any stretch are we rescuing survivors and victims of human trafficking. I think organizations that are doing the long-term care, along with the sweat, blood, and tears of our survivors, is what's leading to that. But rescue and arrest are not the same thing. If it were, we could really start arresting domestic violence victims and say we're rescuing them from violence, right? That's not how the world works. That's obviously not a very good thing. So when we're looking at all of those, look at that harm, something I do want to bring up with operations generally around these big operations is the data around the sex buyers tends to be primarily local, right? So when we look at who's purchasing sex, we need to remember that a lot of the people that are purchasing it are not the ones coming in. I'm not saying they're not. They very well are. There is no doubt about that. But a very large chunk, upwards of, I've seen operations and I've been a part of them where 100% of the buyers were local, tells us that we need to do a couple things. One, we need to be focused on our same operations in the lead up to these events, right? So over the course of the months leading into the Super Bowl, but also 365 days prior to the Super Bowl or any given big event, and 365 days after, constantly doing these operations, because the people that are creating this vacuum are there already. They're constantly there. They're feeding this long before and long after these events. So again, using this as a huge platform to be able to get the word out that and we'll just use New Orleans as the prime example with everything coming. It's an inhospitable area for trafficking, right? We're not going to tolerate it. We're not going to tolerate it in Louisiana, in Texas, in Arkansas, or any of the other states that make up this wonderful country, and we're going to continue to drive that out. While a lot of traffickers will come in, a lot of traffickers will leave. I have seen where there are traffickers that unfortunately are somewhat savvy. And the reality is they look around and they say, hey, look, 500 cops are coming into New Orleans to do operations targeting the Super Bowl and sex trafficking. It's probably a good time to bounce to Houston, right? And they go and shift over there. So again, taking that opportunity to get the word out, we need to be doing them at these events, but we need to be doing them before and after as well. So how can we do a little bit to shift some of what's going on? We at Skull Games, we provide operational and analytical support to vetted law enforcement agencies. And I say vetted for a few reasons. I'm under no illusion that there are not agencies that are not doing kosher things, right? And we will not provide support to agencies that are involved in illegal activities, which does unfortunately happen, or inappropriate activities when it comes to undercover work and things of that nature. The other thing is we won't provide intelligence support to agencies that are going out and making a habit of arresting predominantly women engaged in prostitution. Those long-term effects come from, or the long-term care comes from the service providers, not from the immediate arrest from law enforcement. So that being said, being able to identify traffickers and their victims, as an example, we'll be out there here in a couple of weeks working with some agencies. And the goal for us is to identify victims of trafficking specifically, and then their traffickers, right? So for me, just personally, if I can recover, identify, and get assistance for a victim of trafficking, and that gets them out of trafficking, but I don't get an arrest, that's a win in my book. If we get the arrest, that is icing on the cake, right? But I will never forego the overall benefit to trafficking victims in order to get a tick mark. And that unfortunately is what happens a lot. So really getting able to identify them very, very specifically and narrowly, and then working with law enforcement to interdict that, right? So whether that be setting up a sting operation, whether that be making sure we're at the right time, at the right place to ensure that we come across those victims and provide the opportunity for them to seek assistance. What does that look like? For me, coming from a law enforcement background, hopefully that looks like arrest of a trafficker, because if I can pull that trafficker out of the equation from our victim, it really does provide them the opportunity to seek long-term care and become a survivor and be able to breathe without that trafficker being, around. And then really all that does is protect communities. It keeps our traffickers from being able to recruit new victims. It keeps sex buyers from being able to exploit some of these women, girls and boys that we're seeing through the trafficking, and then ultimately seek justice for them and then make them survivors of that trauma. We primarily use open source intelligence to do that. We only work with law enforcement that is vetted. So not just every law enforcement agency are we going to show up. I assure you, we're not going to show up in New Orleans and just start handing stuff to random law enforcement agencies, as oftentimes we find does happen. But again, we will only work with those vetted agencies. Many of those come in 2-day events that lead up. So we do provide live intelligence support, but then also over the course of weekends where we do have volunteers that are vetted, that are our open source analysts. And then we provide those reports to specifically to those law enforcement agencies. So we will be able to hand those off as well. A couple of the big initiatives that we have, I like to always just kind of throw in. One is our veteran initiative. Everybody on staff is a veteran either of special operations or if you're like me, the rando, you're a Marine Corps veteran, but everybody else comes from the Army side. We also have a strong initiative with survivors of trafficking, and I think this one's pretty unique. These ladies are all in very good positions. We're not asking survivors that came into the world, of survivorship a month ago to come hunt, but we do have some amazing women that were trafficked that are also analysts as well. So not only are they providing analytical support and hunting the people that used to hunt them, but they are also really being able to seek that long-term justice. And one of the things that I think is really interesting and most important with them is, I tell people there's no experts in the field other than survivors and traffickers, really. And what they're able to bring to the analytical table is phenomenal. So being able to say, hey, look, I would not spin my wheels on this, but I would focus on this is really a game changer because they're really not on that side of the field a lot. Each one of our teams is going to have team leads. We're going to have law enforcement partners. We're going to have survivors on every one, and then obviously our open source analysts. So I just want to kind of close out with how do we respond to this, right? And this is from years of working at the Super Bowl. This is from years of law enforcement background in these events. One, understand the cops are going to be working a lot of coffee shifts, right? And I say coffee, it's not going to be coffee. It's like 18 Red Bulls and whatever will keep them awake to continue to move forward on this. This is an overtime phenomenon that's going to be happening at the Super Bowl. Nothing is going to be immediate. I'm sure everybody is well aware of the goings on that have occurred, unfortunately, in New Orleans in the past week. It does not take rocket science to know that is going to be at the forefront of everybody's mind and have to be addressed. So understanding that a lot of these wheels are going to be moving pretty slow, nothing's immediate. The average response time for New Orleans PD is 3 hours, right? And that is not an indictment on them. That's law enforcement overload. Anybody that's in police work knows priority is given, and at times it's slow. That being said, if you work with an NGO, if you work for an organization and you're out in the field and you're finding survivors and victims right now in the field, understand that is one of 100 and it may take time. So please do your diligence in working and having direct contact before you do this. If you're popping in and an organization just out of nowhere, and you're calling 911 saying, I'm looking at human trafficking, it may take a while. So just knowing that, having that immediate knowledge of who you're working with in law enforcement is going to be imperative when you get there. The other, report to the state and national hotlines. There are going to be a bunch of hotlines. There are going to be a bunch of numbers. I know that a lot of these very large organizations are working direct. I've had the fortune of working alongside NCMEC as an example in several of these events. They've got people that are working around the clock on this as well. Going through those avenues to work with the organizations that are working directly supporting law enforcement is going to be huge. One of the final ones I just want to kind of close out with is do not intervene. Do not, I don't care how superhero you decide you want to be. A witness who is a chalk outline is not a good witness. So make sure that you're doing that and becoming good witnesses, right? Because that is what is going to create that change for that particular victim long term, is to get out there in the field and do that. So I know I've thrown a lot at you in a very short period of time. Obviously, we'll have Q&A. I'll try to go back on any in the chat. But again, just understanding that a lot of what is coming is very overwhelming for everybody. And not only should we take the time to ensure that proper messaging is being put out there, because it does affect what is occurring year round. It's also going to affect what happens at the next Super Bowl in California, and the one after that, and the one after that. So ensuring that we're doing that, but also ensuring that this does not become a numbers game, but rather a survivor game, and that we are making sure that we are assisting every survivor we can without them becoming an arrest statistic is going to be huge. So on that, I will digress and check the chat.
Wow. Well, thank you, Joe, so much for your bold leadership on this issue and for sharing this important information with us. You know, hearing you speak and talking about, one, the importance of resources for victims during the stings, the role of sting operations to curb demand, and key factors to know when engaging law enforcement or if a victim is suspected, things to do and not to do. So helpful. So thank you so much. And for our audience, we will let you know that this summit is being recorded and will be on our website at ncphst.org. So if you missed a part of it, we will have it uploaded. So thank you again, Joe. At this time, I'm honored now to introduce another heavy hitter in the anti-trafficking sector, an international leader in raising awareness, specifically before and during large-scale sporting events. Please join me in welcoming Sarah DiCarvalho. Sarah?
Hi, thank you so much, Dana, for inviting me to be part of this really important global summit. Yes, I'm Sarah DiCarvalho, and I'm CEO and founder of It's a Penalty. I've been working in the area of human trafficking for the last 30 years. The first 20 years, I worked with projects on the ground with survivors. And the last 10 years, I've been working in the area of prevention with It's a Penalty. And I have a PowerPoint that I can share. Can everyone see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so It's a Penalty. This is who we are. Our vision is to build a world in which no one is vulnerable to abuse, exploitation, and human trafficking. And It's a Penalty. We run global and local campaigns around major global sporting events by harnessing the power of sport to raise awareness and educate about human trafficking in order to prevent it. We believe that prevention is even better than cure, and in positioning these events as platforms for positive change. And in order to do this, we work with some of the biggest names in sport who front our campaigns. And we also work with sporting governing bodies, airlines, resorts and hotels, local and international NGOs, which is really important for contextualizing our messaging, local governments, travel and tourism companies, local law enforcement, and the general public. So the problem, I know we touched on this, but as we're all aware, it is the fastest growing and second largest criminal industry in the world today. 50 million, it's estimated that 50 million people are trapped in modern day slavery around the world, and that it generates, an illegal profit of $236 billion, which is obtained through the use of forced labor and sexual exploitation by traffickers each year. And that in the US, it's estimated there are more than 1 million people that are trafficked, that are victims of human trafficking in the US. So it's a penalty. We aim to educate about the issue, because it's estimated that 1 in 5 still do not know what human trafficking, only 1 in 5 know what human trafficking is. So it's really important that we educate about the issue, the penalties for offenders, and the signs to look out for. We equip everyone with reporting mechanisms, and we encourage everyone to report anything that they might suspect, whether they suspect they've seen something or they suspect they're a victim. We do this in order to prevent the crimes, reduce demand, and leave a positive legacy as a result of the major sporting event. Our campaign model is, for each campaign, we produce a 30-second campaign film, which is fronted by the athletes. We create a landing page with more information, including the indicators, and more information about what's going on the ground, and our campaign, and what we're doing to try and solve that. It's really important for It's a Penalty to work in collaboration. We do not work on our own. We work in collaboration for greater impact. We also produce campaign materials, and we produce those campaign materials again in collaboration with our partners, and with our partners, especially on the ground in the host cities. As I said, we partner with the sports industry, the travel and tourism industry, local and global NGOs, and local law enforcement and government. So it says that if somebody sees the same information 7 times, they'll remember it. So we do this through working with airlines, airports, taxis, and transportation, hotels, stadiums, the media, and social media. Prevention. The heightened demand for commercial sex during major sporting events can lead to an uptick in sex trafficking activities. For example, during the Paris Olympics and Paralympics in Paris, in Europe, where we also ran a campaign last summer, we observed with one of our partners called Stop the Traffic, that adult service websites targeted prime market for corporate visitors, evidenced by increased prices during the Olympic months of June to August. The language used in those ads frequently reference terms like teen, or implies a young individual, indicating an awareness of the demand for such profiles within the commercial sex industry. During the Olympics, we observed widespread use of short-term rentals and hotel rooms as pop-up brothels. Approximately 80% of the ads referenced in-call services, suggesting that these temporary spaces were frequently used for commercial sex activities. Labor trafficking is also a significant concern. The construction of infrastructure for events such as stadiums and hotels often involves exploitative practices, including forced labor and unsafe working conditions. Migrant workers are particularly vulnerable, as seen in reports from the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar, where workers face discrimination, wage theft, and overwork. Additionally, during the events themselves, industries like hospitality and transportation may rely on exploited labor to meet increased demand. Katerina, who was one of the survivors that we worked with during the Super Bowl in Miami, said after seeing the It's a Penalty campaign, if only these awareness films and campaigns had existed when I was being groomed, I wouldn't have got trafficked in the first place. We celebrated 10 years last summer, and we have run 19 campaigns during major global sporting events around the world. That's including, this is going to be our 8th during the Super Bowl. We run them during the Olympics and Paralympics, the FIFA World Cups, that's for FIFA World Cups for men and women footballers, and also the Euros in Europe, again, for men and women championships. We run them during the Commonwealth Games and during the Hong Kong Rugby Sevens. On average, we reach 180 million people. 94 missing children have been recovered during our campaigns. We've run them in 11 countries. Over 17,000 survivors have been protected through our partnerships. We also train hospitality staff and management, and over 12,500 hospitality staff have been trained. We have 56 sporting ambassadors who've joined us in this campaign, who front our campaigns, and we work with 17 airlines who feature our films in flight, depending on where that major sporting event is taking place. So why do we work with airlines? Many human trafficking victims are known to be trafficked across both national and international borders, and we ensure the campaign is shared in location exposed to trafficking risk. As I said, we again, for New Orleans as well, we've made a short film with NFL players like Jason David, who is a former Saints player. That is currently being shown in flight on British Airways and also American Airlines, and Southwest are showing it on their apps in flight, and people access their apps when they're flying on their planes, and that will be shown throughout the months of January with a run up to Super Bowl, and also the month of February. One case study is that after seeing our campaign film on one of our partner airlines, an 11-year-old boy contacted us to report the abuse of himself and his teammates by his swimming coach. And we were then able to take the appropriate action to inform social services who others and the child's parents to protect him and others from the coach who was arrested. We work with taxis and taxi ride shares like Uber. We also help provide training. We produce signage, for example, taxi tops, as you can see here when we ran the campaign in Las Vegas last year. And also we produced rearview hang tags with reporting mechanisms so that the drivers know what to do once they've suspected that they have been carrying a trafficker, or because they're often right on the front line, or a victim, or indeed an offender. And for example, during with the run up to the Atlanta Super Bowl, when we were working with Uber, one of the drivers said that he dropped off a very well-dressed gentleman. This was the run up to the Super Bowl, who handed him a card and said, if anyone asks for any underage girls or boys, sex with underage girls or boys, you can send them to this address. And he said he literally didn't know what to do. So just a simple thing by producing this hang tag enables them then to know that once they've dropped them off, to then contact the hotline. Again, we work with public transportation and our digital assets that we produce, again, fronted by the athletes. Also educate about the indicators. And again, we work to develop the indicators with the local NGOs. And we run a survey at the end of each of our campaigns, which shows us the impact on average around 79% say that they have an increase of knowledge of the science as a result of being exposed to the campaign. We work with hotels, which is really important. We train staff and management, as I've mentioned, but also the materials that we produce are put in their front and back of house so that staff and management can familiarize themselves with the indicators. We also produce billboards. You can see here an example. This was during the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics. We had our digital film that was shown on the Shibuya crossing, which is one of the largest crossings in the world, with about 2 million people a day passing through. And this was shown for a week. And then here in Las Vegas, you can see an example. We ran 2 campaigns. One was called I Am Not a Souvenir, and the other was called Team Up. And our survey showed that there was 83% increased awareness of how to report as a result of our campaign. So New Orleans, just to finish, because I'm aware of time, we're super excited to be working with you all with the run up to the Super Bowl and during the Super Bowl in New Orleans. We're all aware that human trafficking exists anyway, but it's a great opportunity for us to work together to raise awareness and educate in order to prevent it. And so we're going to be launching this month in New Orleans. And like I said, it's our 8th Super Bowl campaign. We are going to be producing and showing digital signage that will be placed across New Orleans. But also, for example, we've produced a landing page with further information where people through the QR code can go through and receive further education. Our digital assets include signage across public transportation, including buses, videos and billboards, videos that will be shown in flight on airlines, which I've already mentioned, and also other key locations, relevant hotlines to report trafficking. We work with and support organizations on the ground and share their contact details. And then, as I mentioned, a QR code to direct audience to a landing page where they can receive more information about how to spot the signs of exploitation and how to seek support or advice. We're going to be launching the campaign on January the 28th at Caesars Hotels and Casino. And that launch aims to draw media attention to the campaign across the host city and country, ensuring significant coverage of the issue of human trafficking, and also to provide opportunities for networking and partnership building to foster cross-sector cooperation and to raise awareness to prevent trafficking. We'll also be providing training to our partners in the travel and hospitality industry, which again is very important as part of the legacy after the Super Bowl. And finally, these are our campaign partners in the travel and tourism industry and the hospitality industry, and also our local partners, which include NCMEC, who we work with every year in the US, Covenant House, Louisiana State Police, New Orleans Police, and the Parish Sheriff. Thank you so much, everyone.
Wow. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing all of y'all's innovative ideas and activities to raise awareness and just seeing how powerful and effective they are. An 11-year-old actually reached out for help. So thank you for your dedication to raising awareness. And the one thing that was so powerful, you said y'all's mission is prevention is indeed better than cure. So such a powerful statement. So thank you again. All right, we will move on to our next presenter. Our next presenter, you all, embodies the definition of commitment. She's a survivor leader, author, motivational speaker, and founder of the SOAP Project. Teresa has traveled the world raising awareness of human trafficking. And although she had a medical scare, she refused not to be with us today. And so we're so thankful. It just speaks to her level of commitment to this issue. So without further ado, we welcome Teresa Flores. Teresa.
Thank you so much. It's just such an honor to be alive today and be able to do this. The hospital allowed us to have our SOAP project board meeting last night here, so nothing is going to stop us, especially from being in New Orleans. So just let me talk to you a little bit about what SOAP is and what we do. So we have been doing Super Bowl since 2010. So we have been, this year's our 15th year of outreaches. And I'm just so excited that we just keep doing this. We keep getting bigger and better. What we do is we do survivor retreats to help survivors heal, but we also help to identify missing children that are being trafficked potentially, and to educate hotels and motels on this issue before major sporting events. So what we have done is we started with the Dallas Super Bowl in 2010. We raise awareness before the events, because we partner with locals. So I'm not a person that we are bringing all of my team into the city and then leaving and nothing happens. We are a grassroots nonprofit. And so what we do is we find local promises like Louisiana First and United Way, and we partner with them, and we get local volunteers to help. Yeah, that is essential to what we do. And so that is great awareness before the Super Bowl even happens. During our outreach, we go 1 to 2 weeks prior to the actual Super Bowl or the actual event. We do like NASCAR's Kentucky Derby. We've done the first 4 basketball. We're going to Omaha this year for the World Series baseball. So any sporting event it has shown can increase trafficking by 4 times amount. So we go to any event, and it doesn't even have to be an event, but we go to every Super Bowl, and we go 1 to 2 weeks ahead of time. The reason that we do that is because we know that the hotels and motels are going to be very busy during the Super Bowl. And we know that the pimps or traffickers are going to be coming in before the event, right? So that's what we do, is we go before as well. And then the hotels and motels have time to talk to us. We can engage them and educate them for a few minutes too. It's kind of like planting the seeds. And everyone's like, oh, you get to go to all these Super Bowls. I'm like, no, I'm at home watching it in my bed, or my chair, because we've already done the work. So, and then afterwards, our hope is that we get local people to start a chapter. And a chapter is somebody that they continue to do these outreaches, tabling events, things like that. We have chapters in 12 states. My hope is to get one in every state. I saw somebody from Texas on here. We have a Texas Arcana group. I'd love to get Dallas and Houston. We have Mississippi on here as well. And like I said, we'll be in Louisiana. So our hope is that this continues on even after that our team leaves. One of the most important parts of our outreach is our missing children poster. And so I create these myself the week of the outreach. And I use the amazing site of NECMEC. It has helped me so much. It is very hard to choose what kid gets put on our posters. These posters are legal size in color. We don't do booklets or anything like that. We want something that the hotel can post right at the front desk and see it and be like, oh my gosh, that's her, right? So our posters are really important. We give those to every hotel and motel and 24-hour restaurant in your area. So like we go to IHOPs and Denny's and places like that, because we know that likelihood of these kids frequenting one of those places because it's cheap and it's open late is pretty high. So we give them posters too. And we know that New Orleans is going to get, I believe, hit really hard with this, more than some of the other states, I believe. The reason is you just had this Sugar Bowl, so the pimps arrived early, all right? Then we have the Super Bowl, and then what? We have Mardi Gras. So those traffickers are going to be in your city probably 2 months, right? So this legwork is really essential because it's not like when the Super Bowl is over, they're leaving. That's not going to happen. So that's why this is really important. One of the things, well, I'll tell you about the outreach. We get people to sign up to volunteer, and we really need more volunteers. We're partnering with the Junior League, so it'll be at their headquarters in New Orleans. You can find this information on our website to volunteer or make a donation so we can make this happen. It's soapproject.org/events, or if you just go to soapproject.org, you can see all the other things on the website too. So we have a link on there of how to go and register. We have a 200-person max. So for Indianapolis Super Bowl, we had 400 people. I think we had about the same in Atlanta too. So and probably close to that in Los Angeles. So this one is 200 people, but we actually are going to 200 hotels and motels in one day. We're going to be hitting it. So the volunteers will come, we feed them, and we do a Zoom train. Either I'll do a Zoom training or we'll have somebody locally there from our team who's an expert to do the training. We want people to be equipped with knowledge before they go out. It does us no good if they don't know the red flags, if they don't know how to talk to the hotel staff to say, hey, did you know about this? So we have a 1-hour HT 101 that everybody must attend to be able to go out to the hotels. They have to also be 16 or over with parent permission or with the parent as well. So we do our outreach, we do our training, and everybody labels, this is the fun part, bars of soap or makeup remover wipes with our stickers. They're red stickers. And they have several things like, are you able to leave? Are you in need of help? Things like that. And the National Human Trafficking Awareness Number. And so they do makeup remover wipes for the higher end hotels, and then soaps for more of the motels. And that's the fun part because everybody gets to sit down, label, they bag them all up, take them out to our checkpoint. And so it's a lot of hands-on activity, which is why I think this is so successful, because people want to help stop trafficking. When they learn about it, their first question is, what can I do? And for a long time, I didn't know how to answer that question. And so this allows, we have had 4-year-old kids and 90-year-old nuns come to label soap and just to be a part of that. Sometimes they pray over it, you know. After all of that is done, we send them on their way in teams, and each team gets a motel or hotel log of where they're going to go and the addresses and what they're going to be getting. So we will be giving out, I think I wrote it down here. We will be giving out 16,000 bars of soap in New Orleans in one day. And I think it's 14,000 makeup remover wipes. That's a lot of stuff. So they the hotels also get indicator cards with the red flags. They get brochures from our local partners, things like that. So they get more than just a bag of soap. They get educational information. So we do, one of the big things, like Joe said, that I stress is that they don't intervene. We tell our volunteers, this is, you're not a vigilante, you know, please do not intervene, you know, do not give somebody a ride, you can call 911 and that will work. And so, and we have had a case where we had a team go into a hotel in Detroit. They were standing waiting to talk to the front desk clerk with their information. They looked, there was a bunch of kids in the lobby, and they looked on their poster, and they looked in the lobby, and there was one of the girls on the poster. I know this is pretty rare, but they were able to go outside. They called me. We called 911 to do a safety check. And she was actually recovered with another 16-year-old. The trafficker was arrested at that time. He had 5 rooms reserved. And that is a very rare instance, but it's something that is just makes me really happy. I also met a survivor at an addiction recovery program in Columbus, where I live. And she said that she had seen the bar of soap in Detroit right after the Detroit Auto Show, and was in a very bad situation, ran to the bathroom, saw it, and called the number. And she's like, I didn't even care where that number went to, but she called it, and then the police came, and then she got entered into an addiction program in my city. So that was a really cool, just a really cool thing to know that this does work, you know. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't know that I'll be on here for question and answer. So if you have some, if you can put them in there, that would be great. Like I said, we do need volunteers, and we always need donations. We are a very small nonprofit that does not get any government funding. So anything that people can do is a great big help. So I think that's it. I thought there's a question. How do you know this hotels distribute the soap? We don't. We know that we've done this. We've given, you know, for 10 years, we've given out 3 million bars of soap. But we just hope so. We had a 2-day event in Indianapolis for the Super Bowl. We went out, media covered it, ran it on the news that night. And the next day, a motel or a hotel was like, oh my gosh, they didn't come to see us. And so they didn't know that it was a 2-day event. So we had a team that did go to that hotel, and they all clapped when they walked in. They were so happy that we included their hotel. So some of the lower end motels, you would think that they would throw it away. But they are the ones that call me to say, do you have more soap? Because it's free. So it's very interesting. So we're just gonna do it on a wing and a prayer and planting a mustard seed. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Teresa. And wow, wow, wow. 16,000 bars of soap and 14,000 packs of makeup kits. Or my goodness. Sounds like it's going to be very impactful. So
Okay.
thank you for your leadership on this. We appreciate you being with us, and we'll continue to keep you in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I am now very excited and honored to introduce to you a Louisiana native and leader in the anti-trafficking field, someone who I've had the opportunity to collaborate with for several years together, addressing human trafficking. She's respected across our state and beyond. Please join me in welcoming Sherry Combs, Director of Community Engagement at Covenant House, New Orleans. Sherry?
Thank you, Dana, and thank you for inviting me here today to speak. In light of everything that has tragically happened since the beginning of the year here in New Orleans, I think this work is going to be, more important than ever, because law enforcement will be so focused on the general safety of public and tourists that are visiting our city. I do have a PowerPoint I want to share. I wanted to kind of talk about, for people that aren't from New Orleans, haven't visited New Orleans, kind of the culture of our city. I think that's very important when trying to combat human trafficking in the city. We are an economy that is driven by tourism and hospitality.
We can't see your presentation.
Oh,
Try sharing again.
let me try. Can you see it now?
Yes, ma'am. You may just want to put it in presentation mode. That'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. So we're an economy that's driven by hospitality, by tourism. We are very excited and honored to have the Super Bowl here this year. As speakers have already stated, following the Super Bowl, we will have Mardi Gras, and then what we call the season of festivals here in New Orleans, because it seems like we have one large scale event after another, whether it's a sporting event or if it's Jazz Fest, French Quarter Fest. And then Bourbon Street alone attracts about 13 million visitors annually. And so we know that when there is those larger increase in population, increase in people in the city, that increases demand. And with an increase in demand, that increases people at risk of human trafficking and people being brought into the city, and our own victims and survivors right here in New Orleans that are trafficked. And as I was stated, with law enforcement's focus now on, the unimaginable terrorist attacks here with these events coming up, it will be as the result of service providers and community organizations and the community in general, being able to come in and identify these victims and survivors and connect them to the much needed resources they'll need. So a little bit about Covenant House. We've been here since 1987. We are a youth homeless shelter, not just a shelter though. We offer quite a bit of comprehensive services, medical, education, employment, wellness, therapy. So it is a 24-hour structured program. But we also are the lead service provider for the Greater New Orleans Human Trafficking Task Force. We helped to create that task force in 2015, along with the U.S. Attorney's Office. That task force actually works off an enhanced collaborative model. It's one of many ECMs across the United States. And on our core team is Covenant House, Eden Center, New Orleans District Attorney's Office, which is the lead law enforcement, Homeland Security, FBI, Indian Institute Development, and STAR. That's just our core team. And that's just the team that tries to connect and network with existing and new community partners, because at the end of the day, this is about serving victims and survivors. We use a victim-centered approach to proactively investigate and prosecute human trafficking crimes and provide those comprehensive, high-quality services to the victims of trafficking. In Covenant House, we realize that there is a shortage of safe housing for victims that are identified. And so even though we are a youth homeless shelter, we keep our doors open 24/7. And if you're a victim of human trafficking, domestic violence, or sexual assault, we will take you at any age on an emergency basis, so that victim, that survivor, can exit safely and be connected to resources. And then over the next few days or weeks, we work with existing partners within the community to place them in a more age-appropriate setting. And sometimes that could be family reunification. One thing we do when reuniting with family, especially if it includes travel, we avoid using bus travel, only because we know that that is easy for a trafficker to track down somebody. So we do use air travel to make sure that they get home safely. We work with TSA when they don't have their documents to ensure that they get through the gate to boarding and onto their waiting either family, or sometimes it's another TSA agent getting them to their household.
Hey, Sherry, I just
Yeah.
want to make sure we're seeing the correct slide. So we're still seeing your first slide that says human trafficking.
Oh, no, you're not. So it's not sharing correctly.
No, we're still seeing the first. So maybe just stop sharing and try again.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to do. Okay, now do you see it?
Yes. We see Covenant House, New Orleans and Greater New Orleans.
Yes, and I'm about to change slides, so tell me if that works. Do you see the next slide? Okay.
Who we serve? Yes,
Yes, so we're having some technical issues. Okay.
got it.
Technology. Thank you. So it's important also to know who the victims are, who is the most vulnerable in our communities. And so across the city, we collaborate with our partners to get that data, see who they're serving, see who we're serving, and we share that with the state on an annual basis as well, so that we can identify vulnerabilities, but also possible gaps in services that we need to find additional resources for. We also do it to eliminate barriers so that victims can access those services without challenges. So we serve about 84% of our victims are female, 11% being male. 45% racial demographic would be African American, 33% being white, 13% Latin, and the sex trafficking most identified in the city of New Orleans is 78% being sex, 12% sex and labor, and 8% labor. So we have 3 areas of focus for the Super Bowl, and really truly all of the events that take place here in New Orleans, which is our awareness, education, and outreach programs, along with the most important victim identification. One of the things that we've done is partnered with the Office of Human Trafficking. They have started a statewide awareness campaign and initiated these flyers and posters, which were created in collaboration with a local artist and survivors of human trafficking. I thought this was pretty neat because it's not triggering, right? But the QR code that they can click on goes to a landing page for statewide resources, which is truly necessary for victims, but also the community in general, to learn more about human trafficking and what it looks like in their area. And so we will be using these flyers and posters throughout the city of New Orleans to bring awareness. These will be put at very public spaces, including bus depots, our local transportation, hotels, motels, anywhere that we know that it will capture possible victims and also the community's attention. Our education and outreach, it's vital to combat human trafficking. It brings accurate information to the public so they can better identify and provide. It provides like a toolkit, so to speak, so the community and victims themselves know how to report or how to connect to resources. Our task force partners have trained more than 38,000 community members, and they've conducted more than 310 training and outreach activities since the cycle has began. So that we have a huge focus on outreach. The more the community is aware, the more likely you are to be able to identify and provide the supports that are needed. And then Covenant House has its own outreach team, which they truly do. They work tirelessly to engage with the public and ensure that they're connecting resources to vulnerable populations and communities, especially unhoused youth. We know traffickers prey on vulnerabilities, and it's imperative that those resources are easily accessible to eliminate vulnerabilities. Our outreach team does visit and build relationships to areas known to be used as tracks, such as Bourbon Street and Chef Mentor Highway. They use discernment when they can to make sure that they're engaging safely so that everyone's kept safe, the person that needs the resources and also the team itself. Often because they've built these relationships, these victims actually self-present. They present on their own to Covenant House, whether that's for shelter, food, whatever needs that they may have. And another thing that we will continue to collaborate with is our safe spaces, that the hubs that are led by Captain Mentos of Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, New Orleans Family Justice Center, and several other community partners, which they provide a lifeline of resources and safety for victims and survivors. These hubs do remain open during the large sporting events and festivals to ensure resources are easily accessible to the public, and law enforcement does provide support to these hubs. They'll be open for Super Bowl and Mardi Gras around the clock. And then Covenant House itself will keep the 24-hour crisis line available, along with our 24-hour safe shelter. And we engage with law enforcement. They're an integral part of, of our task force. They've conducted more than 670 human trafficking investigations. They've made more than 250 related arrests and identified more than 290 confirmed victims. Our service provider collaboration is across the state. Once again, you cannot have enough resources for victims and survivors. And many times we do have to relocate victims and survivors to different areas that make more sense than to be right outside of the French Quarter where we're located. So with the service providers, our task force does consist of 88 NGOs and law enforcement partnerships and referrals. So our referrals may come from an NGO partner, school, courts, but at Covenant House, most often a victim does present on their own, and they generally present as a victim of domestic violence. It is not until you begin to build that relationship with them and they feel safe enough to begin to trust you before they may disclose, or they may have come to Covenant House as the result of word of mouth and another victim that we may have serviced. And then lastly, I always say that it's very important to keep in mind that once a victim or survivor presents or they're recovered, that's the beginning of their journey. That's the hard work. And because they've been recovered or they've found safe shelter does not necessarily provide them with a sense of safety. And we know from participating in a quality of life survey that was led by Dr. Laura Murphy, that most victims, after a year of being free from their abusers, their traffickers, their life, their emotional well-being really begins to crumble without the right supports in place. We know this, and we know it's not again until year 2 where we begin to see them feel empowered once again and ready to set and reach obtainable goals. That healing journey it's an emotional journey. We keep our doors open for it. And we listen to the survivors so that we can use the feedback they provide us to develop and implement programs that just achieve better outcomes for persons in our care. And so I want to thank y'all, Dr. Dana.
Thank you, Sherry. That was very important information, talking about, the importance of leaning on our local organizations like Covenant House and the Family Justice Center, so many others, CACs, Eden Centers. There's so many right there in the city where the large scale sporting event will take place. And so in any area, whatever state you're in, be sure to understand who's in your area and reach out, collaborate. It's so important. And then she mentioned getting resources and help to victims and being victim-centered. We have to keep that in mind. So thank you, Sherry. And another very special thanks to each of our presenters. Thank you all so very much. And now to bring it all home, we have just a few minutes left. As they've said already, Super Bowl 59 2025 will be held in New Orleans next month on February 9th. Louisiana has become well known across the U.S. for some of our laws and efforts to address human trafficking. It could not have been done without leadership in our state, leadership at the state, regional, and local level. And I can tell you, it makes all the difference. I can say firsthand that there are so many people dedicated to this issue in Louisiana, and I'm sure you can say the same for your respective states. But here in Louisiana, I could not be more proud of the work that we've been able to accomplish together. So at this time, I am deeply honored to introduce to you my successor, the new Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Human Trafficking Prevention under the leadership of Governor Jeff Landry, Monica Taylor. Monica, thank you for taking the helm of our office and continuing the good work that is happening in Louisiana over the last several decades. We're pleased to have you here with us on what Louisiana has been doing to address public safety and the prevention of human trafficking in advance of the upcoming Super Bowl. Monica?
Thank you so much, Dana. I appreciate it. And really, I have to thank Dana and Mrs. Edwards for all the work that they did. I would not be able to be here and doing this work if it wasn't for the amazing work that they did. So thank y'all both very much. We did keep a lot of the staff that was here previously. And I know that Mary Kate Entrepont, who is now our deputy director, is on the webinar as well. And she'll be, as I'm talking, she'll be putting some links in the chat box to our media kit and a couple of other things. So if y'all want to give me permission to share my screen, I can do that real quick.
Yes, ma'am, you should be able to share now.
Okay, I'm looking, it's not coming up.
So there's a little share button at the bottom of your Zoom window.
Yeah, I'm looking. I got it. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, let's see, where is this? Here it is. Okay, great. And we are going to share. Is that it? Is it working? No, it's not.
Yes.
Let's
So we see your presentation. You may
Okay.
just put it in. Yeah. Click from.
Yep, there we go.
Perfect.
So sorry about that. I thought I'd be better at that. So again, I am, like Dana said, I am Monica Taylor, and the new director of the Governor's Office on Human Trafficking Prevention. I'm just going to give you guys, I'm going to stick to an overview of what we're doing with Super Bowl and sort of beyond that, how we're going to take the awareness that we're doing. Like Joe said, we know that Super Bowl isn't necessarily something that increases or changes the dynamics of human trafficking a whole lot. And so what we want to do is use it as a vehicle to raise awareness and to expand the campaign throughout the whole state once it's over. So we have taken a three-pronged approach: awareness, education and outreach, and operation and victim identification. On the victim outreach section of it, so what we've done is our office is focused on victim outreach, and we're going to partner with HSI, Homeland Security, and we are going to use their Blue campaign to focus on community outreach and the letting the everyday citizen know what to look for and what's doing. And what we're trying to do is reach victims. So we have really created something that is to reach the individual victims who are affected by this. And we want to offer assistance and resources. We worked with a Lafayette-based artist, and she went to Metanoia House. I know Kathy's on here, and Father Chuck, of course, is on here. We went there and worked with the artists, with the survivors who live there. They are our artists now. They absolutely are. We worked with the survivors there, and this is really their artwork. This is artwork that they created that is not scary. It's a tapestry of their resiliency, of their hopes and dreams, and where they really want to see themselves go and who they see themselves as. So we really wanted to reflect that in there. As it's been said already, we went with a trauma-informed material. We didn't want to do any of the scary pictures. We didn't want to sensationalize it or do anything that could be traumatizing to people. We wanted it to be culturally relevant. We wanted it to really reflect Louisiana and reflect the way Louisiana views art and music and the joie de vivre of life that we have down here. And so that was super important to us. Again, centered around our survivors and really showing the strength that can come from stepping out of victimhood and into being a survivor. So this is the campaign. As you can see, we do have it translated into a couple of different languages. We have it translated into Vietnamese and to Spanish. And then this QR code will take you to a landing page, which I'm going to talk to you about just a little bit more in a minute. But you can see they have some really great pictures on here, pictures of flowers and of a house and a car and music, things that really have meant to the women who did this artwork and the young girls who did this artwork about what surviving all of this really meant to them. So we've been just honored to share their voices and hear what they had to say. This is a copy of our digital ad. You can see it has the Saints logo on it, and that is because this is the one that we did for the Superdome. So this has been in the Superdome. I think it played at the last 2 Saints games, played at Bayou Classic, and played at the Sugar Bowl. So this has been up for quite a while in the Superdome. And so we love our partnership with the Saints, and with the Saints Pelican organization has been really fantastic and really great. What that QR code does, so if you go to that QR code, it takes you to a landing page. And if you look at this landing page, nowhere on this first part of it does it say you are a victim. And we really want to try and empower people to put whatever label they need to get assistance and to get help, to put that label on themselves. And we don't want to label anybody. So we just want to provide as much information as possible. You can see we carried a lot of the artwork over to it. Further down on the page, I think this is really important. Sometimes, as Sherry said, sometimes people will present as a DV case or a sexual assault case if they present at the hospital. And so maybe that's all they're willing to acknowledge at this first point, right? Is I'm a DV survivor, or I just need food, or I need a place to stay. Whatever help that we can provide, we want to be able to provide it. So all of that information is here. All of these different prompts have drop-down menus that people can go to get more information. We have partnered with Cox Communications, the Saints Organization, and the Louisiana Legislators Women's Caucus, which Senator Mizell, I believe, is on the webinar as well, listening in. She's been a huge champion of this. And we have a PSA that's running. And so I want to play that for you. It's got the governor in it. Governor Landry is in it. Senator Mizell is in it. Mrs. Benson is in it. And also Demario Davis, and who is a defensive player for the Saints, the leading tackler for the Saints, and his wife, Tamala. They have been huge supporters of Covenant House and of this issue as well. So I'm going to see if I can try and play this. And see if we can get you guys to the premiere, the world premiere of this.
So we're not hearing the sound from the video.
Are you not hearing the volume?
Correct.
Okay, let me see if I can get you some volume. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. Maybe let me see.
So when you share, Monica,
Can you hear that? Yeah.
when you share, there may be a box you have to check to share your computer sound as well. So you may
Okay.
need to unshare and try sharing again to see if that
Okay.
little check box is there.
Okay. How do I unshare? I'm sorry. In slideshow. Okay.
Yes.
Let's see.
And so
Okay.
then go to your
Gotcha.
Zoom.
So
Mhm.
stop share and start sharing
Correct.
again.
And
Gotcha.
so when you click
Sorry,
share,
guys. I know we're trying to be out of here on time.
So do you see a little checkbox that says share computer sound
It,
or video?
yes, yes. I
Try
got
that.
it now. Okay. Is it doing now?
No, did you click share after you checked the box?
I did. I did. So since that's not working, I'm gonna go ahead and stop it. But we do have this commercial. I apologize, a little technical difficulty there. But we can put it in the, maybe Mary Kay can try and share a link of it, a link to it. And if you go to our Facebook page, we do have it on there as well. The other thing that I did want to add is that in addition to my contact information, I did want you guys to know that today we released a proclamation that saying that Louisiana designating Human Trafficking Prevention Month in Louisiana for January as well. So we have done the proclamation as well for the state. So yeah, that's all of it. I know I went over time just a little bit. I see if you go in the comments for Keisha, who is our program manager. I didn't mention her earlier, but Rakisha is our program manager. She has shared the PSA that you all can view. So I won't hold y'all up. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for your leadership and your team support and all stakeholders that have jumped in and helped and that's helping, in some of the efforts leading up to Super Bowl. So
I do want to say real quick, Dana, I apologize for jumping. I do want to say before we get off, this is by no means, none of this is a single effort by the Office of Human Trafficking Prevention. We have many, many stakeholders, many people who are on here. We've worked with Joe, we worked with Sherry, worked with It's a Penalty, we've worked with SOAP, we've worked with everybody, the former First Lady, Mrs. Edwards, and of course, Dana. We appreciate everybody's leadership and the role that everybody plays together. So thank you all very much.
That's awesome, Monica. It does take everybody pulling together. So thank you. And thank you, everyone. And at this time, I will turn it over to Mrs. Edwards.
Wow, thank you all so much. Thank you, Dana. Such great information was shared today. And we do have a few more important facts and information to take with you today. I'm always learning new information, and I've read lots of notes today, and I find new ways that I also can engage in this work. So I appreciate each of our presenters and speakers again for sharing information with us and how to be involved. I want to say thank you to Father Chuck and Susan and Joe and Sarah and Teresa and Monica and once again, Dana, and our behind the scenes support, Samantha and Dina. Their presentations remind us that there are simple ways that we can all do to bring awareness and educate someone and save a life. None of us can do everything like you just mentioned, Monica, but we can each do something. I hope you heard something today that you can take back to your prospective agency or organization that will help you in your day-to-day work. I want to share a few brief announcements that we before we sign off. One, we're excited to share with you that NCPHST has completed the production of our Human Trafficking Prevention and Awareness Playbook. This playbook will be used as a training tool and best practices guide on how to develop and implement statewide prevention efforts before and during large-scale sporting events. The playbook is published in partnership with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and includes statements from key international, national, state, and tribal leaders who stand with NCPHST against human trafficking, as well as contributions from national experts, including survivor leaders in the anti-trafficking field. If you or your organization would like to be trained on how to get started in developing and implementing a community, regional, or state level response, please reach out to us at info@ncphst.org. We have also partnered with the Louisiana Nurses Association, Nurses Against Trafficking Task Force, Emergency Nurses Association to develop a human trafficking training for medical providers, and we have created a human trafficking indicator badge for medical providers. If you are interested, this is the medical provider indicator card. If you're interested in training for your health system or a simple way to identify if someone is a victim, please contact us to discuss training opportunities. Also, the 6th annual Mid-South Summit, which was mentioned today, will take place on January the 21st, 22nd in Lake Charles, Louisiana at the LaBerge Casino. Numerous states are always represented to collaborate and share critical information about human trafficking. We're dropping that registration link in the chat box and encourage you to consider joining us. Lastly, I'm pleased to be a part of award-winning documentary produced by WYES out of New Orleans, Turning the Tide, a story of hell, healing, and hope. If you have not watched this documentary, you can access it by going to YouTube and typing in Turning the Tide, a story of hell, healing, and hope. And we're honored to have recently received a regional Emmy Award for the documentary. We also have added a link in the chat for that also. As Dana mentioned in the opening, we're very thankful that you have taken the time to join our global summits. If there are topics that you think are pertinent to this field, please drop them in the chat, and we can certainly consider hosting a future summit on the topic. Also, let us know about your thoughts and about today's summit. We'd love to have your feedback. And so we thank you once again, and we look forward to our work together in the future. And thank you for everybody. It takes a team effort. So thank you for being a part of today's summit, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Take care and God bless.
Thanks so much, Donna.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate your support.
This is just amazing what all you're getting done and training medical people. That's great. I'm going to share that information, see if I can get some of our medical systems involved.
We will be in touch.
Okay, thank you.